Welcome back then folks to day 2 of Special Projects pack number 11. Hopefully I sound a little bit better at the moment. And if you hear some clacking in my mouth, it's because I've got a sore throat lozenge. So, this particular build is a bit of a mixed bag. Well, not a mixed bag, it's a combination, more so. Because this is a semi-replica of course, the WRC era that the Evo V was in, rather than the much more famous red and white Evo V Rally Car, which of course we've had in Gran Turismo before. And apparently, I didn't know this, but Kaz had an Evo V with a replica of this era of the WRC on it, which is pretty badass. So this particular one is going for that kind of visual style, and of course this one is a replica of the number 2 car. There are tons of different versions with different driver names, different numbers that the community's done, but if you want this one, it will be linked down in the description. As far as the specs though, that's where things are different, because as you can see, 428 horsepower isn't exactly WRC spec, neither is 1060 kilos. The reason for that is because I'm actually using the Gran Turismo 2 specs for this car to make it a bit of a hybrid build. So as far as the build itself, in terms of what parts to fit, the only unfortunate thing is you actually cannot make the weight quite as low as in Gran Turismo 2. I seem to recall it was like 1030 kilos, I think, instead of 1060, but it's pretty close, so we can forgive that. You want your stage 1 weight reduction. As far as the club sports section, we've got the power restrictor, stage 2 weight as well, dirt tyres and ballast. For the semi-racing stuff, we've got the fully customised computer. I've gone for the medium RPM turbo, which works out quite nicely for getting 428 horses, but also having quite a decent mid-range, of course, punch. Low end could not always be quite enough. Top end, of course, being rally, you might not get the chance to use enough of that, so mid-range is pretty good. We've got the fully customised diff. I've gone for the fully customised manual transmission, a bit more appropriate for a rally car. I have opted to increase the body rigidity for this one, stage 3 weight as well. Just to jump over to the ultimate section, no, I wanted to double check if it had stage 5, but not on this one. So if we jump back down there, then over to the racing section, we do have anti-lag fitted. I've stroked up the engine just a little bit. Of course, that's not accurate to the car. The reason why I've done that, though, is just to get the right horsepower without having to restrict it too much. So if you want to try and get another way of getting 428 horses, then absolutely go for it. That's just the method that I used. We've got the racing intercooler, race filter, race silencer, the manifold, pads, and of course discs. I've said it before, but I'll say it again for those who are new. It doesn't really matter which discs you go for. You could go for drilled or slotted, or I guess even the carbon ceramics. Doesn't really suit the car, but you could do it. You want your torque vectoring center diff, clutch and flywheel, of course the suspension as well. As far as the extreme stuff, we've got the steering angle adapter, naturally, the hydraulic handbrake for that extra manoeuvrability. It's very, very good for a rally car. And then I haven't bothered doing anything for the ultimate section. So, if we jump back into the home garage, we can then get into the tuning side of things. Now, obviously, with an Evo, last time I did the Evo 6, so we're keeping it in the family pretty closely. That one is kind of a middle build. You know, it's not overly quick, but it's certainly not slow, building it to the more accurate WRC kind of numbers. Whereas this time around, it's almost more like a Group B kind of build. So barely a ton, well over 400 horses. So it could easily be maybe too much to handle. The fact that it's an Evo, though, of course, is going to help. So we've got the dirt tyres fitted. As far as the suspension, we've got 140 on the front, 135 on the rear. Slight disparity, but if I jump back out, you can see why. It just makes it a little bit more even rather than having the lower front end. As far as the anti-roll, that's on 4, 30 and 40 for the dampers, 2.55 for the springs, 1 degree of camber on the front, half a degree on the back. As far as the toe, we've towed in 0.5 on the front, towed out 0.5 on the rear. And of course that little bit of toe on the back encourages more back-end swing to really make the most of that kind of, the combination really of having the four-wheel drive grip on the one hand, but then also wanting to power slide through corners and allowing that 400 horsepower to just carry you through. As far as the diff, we've got 10-10, 30-30 and 20-20, and I've opted for a 50-50 split. As far as the fully customised gearbox, I've gone for a 270 km/h setting, so fairly close ratio. As far as the power restrictor, the ballast, none of that is touched. Downforce I've got as low as possible. I'll leave that down to you. As far as the anti-lag, I've got that set on strong. because why not get the good performance out of it? And then for the rest, you can see everything we fitted. So of course, naturally, all that remains is to jump out on the dirt track and show you what it can do in practice. Now, in terms of pace, of course, this is going to be significantly quicker, to put it lightly, than most of the WRC style builds that I've done, plus the Evo 5 isn't exactly slow to begin with. For a long time, this was pretty much my favourite Evo. I think it has a really cool kind of knife edge approach to being an Evo. There's nothing, no extra frills, it's just totally focused. In terms of using this one, especially with 400 horsepower in that really grippy chassis, you want to be very aggressive with how you use it. Throw it into a corner and it will respond very well. You need to be very rough, so keep the steering heavy, the braking and throttle use make that heavy as well, and the car will naturally respond and fall into line. And of course, with 400 horsepower, barely 1,000 kilos, it's never going to be slow. So it's something a bit different to most of the other WRC builds. If you want to make it more accurate to real life, then of course you could go by real life regulations, but like I said, I wanted to make it a bit more of a throwback to Gran Turismo 2, which of course, as you'll have noticed, is why in the teaser trailer, and even in the title here, I have not called it the WRC. I've called it the Rally Car, which is more of the Gran Turismo approach to naming the machine. So that's it for this build, of course. Stick around for more in Special Projects Pack number 11. Check out the ones from yesterday if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time with more. But for now, thanks for watching.